Welcome back for another deep dive. I've been kind of, I don't know, fascinated by this idea. Can you really become like a modern intellectual just by using an app?
Hmm. I guess that depends what we even mean by modern intellectual these days, right?
Yeah, totally. But that's what Blinkist is claiming. At least that's the vibe I get.
Blinkist.
Yeah. This app we've been checking out, and they got some pretty big names endorsing them too, like Tim Cook, even Joe Rogan.
Oh, wow. So figures who are known for being, well, curious, I guess.
Right. It makes you wonder what they see in it.
Yeah, definitely.
So Blinkist, basically what they do is they take nonfiction books, all kinds of topics, and they condense them down into these 15-minute reads and listens. They call them blinks.
Okay, so like the key takeaways, kind of.
Exactly. And they've got a crazy huge library, over 5,700 titles, they say, across 27 categories. Like a lot of information packed into these little bite-sized pieces.
Wow, that's a lot. But does it really work? Like, could you really grasp, say, Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari in just 15 minutes?
That's the big question, isn't it? I mean, how much depth can you really get from a condensed version like that?
Right.
And I'm really curious about, like, their selection process. How do they decide which books even make it into the app?
And then how do they actually turn these books into these blinks?
Yeah, they say they've got experts curating the books. And it's not just about bestsellers either.
Oh, interesting. So maybe they're looking for, like, books that have stood the test of time, not just the latest fads.
That's what I was thinking. And they even say that they use, you get this, neuroscientific principles to create these blinks.
Neuroscientific principles. That's pretty high tech for book summaries.
I know. What does that even mean?
Makes you wonder if they're onto something or if it's just, marketing hype.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical, but, I have to admit, sometimes I find myself in that doom scrolling spiral, just wasting time on my phone. And I think maybe Blinkist could be like a better way to use those little pockets of time,
It's definitely a more productive way to spend those moments, for sure.
Yeah. And get this, apparently around 70% of Blinkist users prefer listening to the blinks rather than reading them.
That makes sense, right? You can listen while you're commuting, working out, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's perfect for our busy lives. And they have this try before you buy thing where you can get a 15-minute sample of a book before you commit to the full version.
Well, that's nice. You can sort of test the waters before diving in.
Yeah, exactly. And they've got like tons of 5-star reviews on the app stores, over 94,000 of them. And even publications like the New York Times have given them good reviews.
Well, that's definitely a good sign. Seems like they're doing something right.
But, reviews and popularity, that's one thing. But the real question is, does it actually deliver on this promise of making you a modern intellectual?
And, like we were saying before, what even is a modern intellectual? That's a whole other question.
Right. So much to unpack here. Okay, so we've got a sense of what Blinkist is all about. Their massive library, their unique approach, and how they try to appeal to busy people like us. But there's another layer to this deep dive. We came across these book recommendations from Andrew Ng.
Andrew Ng?
Yeah, the co-founder of Google Brain, big name in the world of AI.
Okay, yeah, I know him.
And he shared his top 5 book recommendations for basically anyone who's interested in AI and all its implications.
Oh, wow. So we're going from app reviews straight into the deep end of AI.
Why not? So his first pick is Human Compatible by Stuart Russell. This book dives into one of the biggest questions about AI, like how do we make sure that it aligns with human values? We see all those movies about rogue AI.
Right. So it's not just science fiction anymore.
Exactly. And then he recommends Life 3.0 by Max Tegmark, who's this MIT cosmologist.
Okay.
This one takes a big picture view. Like what happens if we actually create super intelligent AI? What's that world look like?
Wow, that's getting pretty deep.
I know. A little scary, right? Okay, then there's The Master Algorithm by Pedro Domingos, and this one is all about the search for a single algorithm that could, unlock all knowledge from data.
A single algorithm to rule them all. That's a pretty ambitious goal.
Right, and then his fourth pick, Superintelligence by Nick Bostrom. Kind of similar to Life 3.0, looking at the paths and, the potential dangers of AI becoming smarter than us.
Yeah, that's definitely something to think about.
For sure. And lastly, he recommends 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. This one's a little bit different. It's about entrepreneurship and creating new markets.
That's an interesting one. I wouldn't have expected that on a list about AI.
Me neither. But I guess it makes sense. AI is going to disrupt everything, including business.
True.
So I'm starting to see a theme here. These books, they all touch on different aspects of what it means to be, a modern intellectual in this age of AI.
Yeah, it's not just about knowing facts anymore. It's about grappling with these huge questions about technology, the future, humanity.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But can Blinkist really give you the depth you need to really engage with these ideas? Or are we just getting like a surface level understanding? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I guess we'll have to keep digging and see what we find.
Let's do it. So we've got this list of books, all super interesting, dealing with some pretty big ideas.
Mm.
But I can't help but wonder, even if Blinkist does a great job summarizing them, are we missing out on something by not reading the full book?
That's a good point. It's like we're getting the Cliff's Notes version, you
Yeah.
know?
Like you might get the main points, but you're missing all the nuances, the author's voice, all that.
Right, exactly. And there's always the risk of oversimplifying things, too.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Like a complex argument gets boiled down to like 3 bullet points.
Yeah, and those bullet points might not capture the whole picture.
Plus, it's not like these summaries are coming straight from the author, right?
Mm.
It's Blinkist's editors interpreting things.
True. So there's a layer of, I guess, interpretation there.
Exactly. So maybe it's best to think of Blinkist as like a starting point, you know?
Yeah.
Get a quick overview, and then if it grabs you, you can dive deeper into the full book.
Yeah, I like that. It's like a gateway to knowledge, not the whole library.
Right. But I can see how it would be really appealing, especially if you're short on time.
Oh, definitely. Or if you're just, a little intimidated by a big, thick book.
Totally. It makes these complex topics a little less daunting.
Yeah. Lowers the barrier to entry, for sure.
But we can't forget about the potential downsides, right? Like we were saying, the risk of oversimplification, the possible bias from the editors.
And, you're ultimately relying on someone else's filter to decide what's important.
So it's like any tool, I guess.
Yeah.
It can be useful or not, depending on how you use it.
Exactly. It's not a magic bullet for becoming an intellectual, but it could be a helpful part of the process.
Maybe it could even, like, spark a deeper interest that leads you to explore more on your own.
Right. It could be that initial spark, the thing that gets you hooked.
But I'm still kind of stuck on this idea of the modern intellectual. What does that even look like today? It seems like things have changed a lot.
Yeah, I think it's a constantly evolving idea. It used to be all about, spending hours in the library reading tons of books.
Right, but now information is everywhere. It's more about, like, what you do with it.
Yeah, it's about being able to think critically, connect the dots, form your own opinions.
Not just memorizing facts, but understanding the bigger picture.
Exactly. It's about being curious, open-minded, willing to question things.
That's what I'm getting from this, yeah. So in a way, maybe Blinkist could help develop those skills by exposing you to all these different ideas.
Possibly. But ultimately, it's up to each person to take that information and, like you said, connect the dots, dig deeper.
It's that active engagement that makes the difference.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to remember that, intellectual growth, it's not a finish line you cross. It's an ongoing journey.
Well said. But I still keep coming back to this question. Can you really grasp a complex idea in just 15 minutes?
I mean, it depends, right? Some ideas might lend themselves to that kind of condensation. Others might get lost in the process.
I guess it's up to each person to decide what works for them.
And what they're trying to get out of it.
So there's not really a clear-cut answer to whether Blinkist is good or bad. It's all about context.
Yeah, it's a tool, and like any tool, it has its pros and cons.
What really stands out to me is this idea that, intellectual curiosity, it's not just for academics or experts. It's for everyone.
Totally. It's a mindset, a way of approaching the world.
And maybe, just maybe, Blinkist can help open some doors and get people excited about learning.
It could be a good starting point. But it's important to remember that real intellectual growth, it goes beyond just consuming information.
Right. It's about engaging with those ideas, making them your own. So what are your thoughts? What's resonating with you from our deep dives into Blinkist?
For me, it's really that sense of ownership, like Blinkist is a tool, yeah, but it's not going to do the work for you. Yeah. It's easy to fall into that trap of thinking, oh, if I just consume enough information, I'll be like a genius. But it doesn't really work that way.
No, it's about being curious, asking questions, not just passively taking it all in. But I also think it's cool that Blinkist makes these ideas more accessible. Like, not everyone's got time to read a whole stack of books.
That's true. It could be, like, my way to dip your toes in the water, see what's out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe it leads to something more. Maybe you get hooked on a topic and you want to learn more.
Right. It could be that first spark.
Like with those books Andrew and Neng recommended, even just hearing the titles and, like, the basic premise, I'm kind of intrigued, Maybe I'll check out a few on Blinkist just to see.
Yeah, me too. It's like, even if you don't read the whole book, it's still a starting point for a conversation, for thinking about these ideas.
And that's what I like about these deep dives. It's not just us talking at you. It's about sharing this journey of exploration and hopefully, inspiring you to go out and learn something new too.
Yeah, for sure.
So if anything we've talked about today piqued your interest, I'd say go check out Blinkist or any other platform that sparks your curiosity. See what you discover.
It's all about that lifelong learning, right? Always be exploring, always be questioning.
Absolutely. That's what keeps things interesting. And hey, maybe we'll stumble upon another cool topic for our next deep dive.
Sounds good to me.
Until then, happy learning, everyone.